Folks, this is a belated update on my book journal. As you can see, I changed the notebook I'm using. This year I was initially using this Moleskine, but I got very annoyed with the paper quality in this. So I'm using this notebook as a general research notebook, and I shifted my book journal to this notebook here, which I was gifted by my sister-in-law 2 years ago. I'm finally using it. This is called Mijn Bookjournal by a Dutch brand called Mus. We can make some comparisons here. Size-wise, the Moleskine is slightly larger than my previous notebook. This is a Leuchtturm, and the Dutch one is very small but has more pages. And as we compare the binding here, it looks like the Dutch notebook has a sturdier binding. But it has some letdowns. For instance, it does not lie flat. It's not as comfortable to write, whereas the Leuchtturm lies flat, as well as the Moleskine. The Moleskine does not come with numbered pages, nor does the Dutch one. You have to number the pages yourself, whereas the Leuchtturm is already numbered. The Leuchtturm comes with an elastic band, as well as the Moleskine. But I had to make one for the Dutch one. It does not come with an elastic band, and it's useful because as I use the notebook and make collages and add inserts, it tends to open up. So the elastic band keeps it more or less in place. I made this attached to a pencil case. I knitted the pencil case. The pattern is free. I will link it below, and I can comment on it. Basically, you start knitting the flap flat, and then you start to knit the body in the round, and it has a very simple cable pattern here. And you can keep your working pens inside and take them with your notebook. Yeah. Where else? The Dutch notebook comes with two bookmarks, whereas the Moleskine comes with one, and the Leuchtturm also comes with two. I should say that the Moleskine and Leuchtturm are softcover versions of the notebook, and also they are the larger versions of it. I will leave on the screen the specifications of each of these notebooks regarding both paper weight and sizes, so you can have more information, and if you have questions, leave them below. Now I will make a quick flip through my current book journal so that you can see how I'm using it. First, I cover it in plastic to protect the cover, because the cover is white, it gets dirty easier, so I cover it in plastic. I made a collage here with the ex libris as well as here, and I made a collage here as well because I wanted to cover up the brand. And here you have the index. I used the black ink to denote lists and collections, and I used the purple ink to denote book titles, so that if I'm looking for what I have written on a particular book, I can go on the corresponding page. This notebook comes with an inbuilt calendar, but you already know that I think this is useless for book journals, so I still have to decide how I'm using this page. It also comes with an inbuilt circle. People who do bullet journal use these to track their areas in life or their projects. I'm tracking my reading projects, my long-term reading projects, and I have some of them here. And I color in each circle as I complete 10% of the corresponding project. Each circle denotes 10% complete. That's how it works. This notebook also comes with an inbuilt map. And if you remember, I had that on my first book journal. Let me show you. And I colored in the countries as I read books by authors who came from these countries. I'm doing it slightly different here because I'm coloring in the nationalities of the books I write about, because the books I write about tend to be slightly less diverse than the books I read about. That's why I want to track this nationality map this way. And here we have my 2020 plans. I inserted two pages here, smaller pages, where I have my projects, and in these two pages here I have my plans, and I use these two as a kind of seasonal future log. I have the seasons, the events that happen in each season, and I make a list of books I may read for each event. And then I mark down whether I read the book, one circle, and whether I wrote about it, a second circle. I don't write down, you've noticed, all the books I read, because I already track the books I read in the year. I track on my Excel spreadsheet. So here is just a planning spread. It's not to track all the books I've read. I think it would be useless to do that on my notebook since I have my spreadsheet. And now my reading projects, I also changed my method. I'm using Katie's method, Katie from Books and Things. I will link her videos below. I have a series of thematic prompts, and here I have the months in the year. And whenever I read at least one book that fulfills the corresponding prompt, I color in each month. So, for instance, I wanted to read more German books, and whenever I read at least one book, one German book in 1 month, I color in the corresponding month, and so on and so forth. Here, the book series, each square corresponds to one book in the series, and when I read the book, I color in the square. My classics club list, I have a new list, and I wanted to read 20 books from this list. This is not going to happen, but we can always hope. And then I color in every time I read one book from the list. Here a list of new to me women authors I wanted to read this year, and I color in one circle if I read the author, second circle if I write about her. Here, the way I'm tracking my TBR, and this may only make sense inside my brain, but bear with me, guys. Now, I wanted to read at least 20 books from my local library this year. Well, with coronavirus, the library was closed for 4 months, so yeah, it was difficult. It will be difficult perhaps to complete this, but anyway, and I color in as I read one book from the library. And I have a rule. Once I read 4 books for the library, I can buy one physical book. I also have a Script subscription, and same thing, I wanted to read at least 20 books from Script, and as I read, I color in a number. And when I read 4 books from Script, I am allowed to buy one physical book for me. I also wanted to unhaul books, so whenever I read a book that I don't want to keep, or I don't finish a book that I don't want to finish and don't want to read, never in my life, I give away the book, donate the book, or sell the book, whenever. And I wanted to unhaul 40 books from my TBR, and I'm doing pretty well this year. I unhauled 91, and for each book I unhaul, I am allowed to buy one more. Those are the rules. And here I track the books I bought this year. I bought in 2020. And you can see physical books now, because ebooks I already have, ebooks and audiobooks I already have through Script. Oh. And I bought 4 books this year, and I crossed all 4 books because I've already read all of the books I read this year. And every time I read 4 books, I read this year 4 books that I bought this year, I am allowed to buy 1 physical book. So this is how I track my TBR. You tell me how you do yours and if my method makes any sense to you. Here I track my read-alongs, and each time I read 20% of the book, I color in 1 circle, and I color in 1 square when I write about the book on my blog. Here you have a space for my bingo on my podcast, and a space for the books we have to read for our local book clubs. A space to list some of the literary prizes I followed this year. I list a long list of titles and mark down whether I read them. And that's it. The rest of the notebook are things I write about, books I read, lists I make. I'm not going to show these to you. I'm only going to show you this spread here, where I track my Century of Books challenge. I want to read 1 book for each year of the 19th century, and I list down all of the years, and I write down the books which were published in the corresponding year and mark down whether I read and wrote about the book. And that's how I'm tracking this. Now finally I added an envelope here where I am doing something similar as a TBR jar. So I have an envelope which works as a TBR jar. So I have here some paper where I list a book title, and whenever I want, I randomly pick 1 title to read. So this is how I do my TBR jar now. This looks beautiful, but it is slightly fiddly. Okay. Now, I created this small notebook here. I don't know why. I just thought it could be something nice to have. Mothbox used to be a bookish subscription box. It does not exist anymore. Unfortunately, we loved this subscription box by Mercedes, and I thought this small notebook could be kind of a moth box inside the larger notebook. Here we have a library card. This is also a subscription box, Prudence and the Crow. This is for second-hand books. And each book you receive comes with a library card. You are supposed to attach this to the book, but I don't do that to my books. And I decided to attach them to my book journal. But I don't know yet what I am going to do with this. Perhaps track some dates, important dates, I don't know. And I also have this information about my blog, social media. If I ever lose this book journal, perhaps the person can contact me. Oh, this is also slightly fiddly. And that's it. This is my book journal. Tell me below how you organize your book journal, whether you keep one or not. I will link below some channels and accounts who have inspired me on my journal. And I'll link also my previous videos about it so that you can watch how my book journal changed since I started doing it. That's it. I hope you enjoyed, and see you later. Bye bye.